Dat Discussion, a New England Saints podcast where we talk about all Saints news, opinions, and reactions. So before we get into some Saints news and a little talk about Saints-Eagles, I just want to say if you haven't followed us already and you like this podcast, you can follow us on Twitter at the Who Dat Dis, on Instagram at Who Dat Discussion, on Podomatic at the Who Dat Discussion. Also, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Google Play channel, our Spotify channel, and our iTunes channel at the Who Dat Discussion. On there, hit the like button, rate us, review us, see what we're doing good, what we need to work on, and then also comment as well. That would all be good stuff. So with all that said, I think it's time to get into some Saints news. So our first and only piece of Saints news this week, because we already covered the Brandon Marshall signing, is, left tackle Terron Armstead is now out 3 to 4 weeks with a shoulder injury. People were saying it was just like a bruised pectoral muscle, so it could be something like that. No tears or anything, so he won't be out long term. But 3 to 4 weeks is 3 to 4 weeks. So, it's just a player that's been really good all year. Pro Football Focus ranked him the number one, lineman for all, linemen in the whole NFL. And, I'm really, not fine with this injury because Terron Armstead's a great player and everything, and I like him, and he's done such great stuff this year. He's gotten better this year, but I'm fine with our replacement for him in Jermon Bushrod. I think he's a very, very solid left tackle. I think he'd start for many teams as a left tackle. A very, very good backup plan, and thank God the Saints signed him because, if we didn't have him, we had to put some, rookie in or someone like that. I would be definitely less confident, but I'm very confident in Bushrod. I mean, for about 6 years, he was, the left tackle for the Saints. Drew Brees knows him really well. He trusts him, so I think that's just really big stuff for him, which makes him, a really good backup. But, I think we'll miss Armstead a little bit, but not as much as if we, had another lineman go out and we had a really young guy come in. So, it's only 3 to 4 weeks. He should be back for those 2 Carolina games. It's going to be most important. And, I think he should be definitely back for January. If we're going into the playoffs and the way we are playing, it definitely looks like it that way. So, it's good stuff there that we have a nice backup. But obviously, a little disappointing, because Armstead, he has had injury, an injury history, in the past. And now it's coming out again. So, I mean, you don't want to see it, but I think we're in good shape, to take an injury on the offensive line. Some national, media was saying that, we are going to be worse because of this, and I just don't see that. I think, we did a really good job against Cincinnati, who has a pretty good defensive front, and Bushrod did just fine against, Carlos Dunlap, who was a ton of, 7 sacks. He's just as many sacks as Cam Jordan. So, I mean, he did fine against him, so that was good there. Also, usually Michael Bennett lines up on the right side, so he only have to face Bennett this week, so I think that's a good thing there. Probably be someone like Chris Long, so I think that's a good thing for, Bushrod there as well. But with all that said, I think that transitions us nicely into some Saints-Eagles talk as our main topic of the week. So as we, do this every week, we'll start off with some notes, then storyline, and then the group-by-group preview. So first we'll do our notes, and first, the Saints are favored by 8 points in this game. They have a 74.1 chance to win by ESPN Match Predictor. That's, nice stuff. I think now, we're starting to, get the respect of, not only the media, but also, maybe, Vegas and stuff like that, which I think, it's good, but it's good and all, but it doesn't really matter that much. But, favored by 8 points, that's big for me. That means that people expect us to play good in our home dome, and I think that's good there. Philadelphia is the defending Super Bowl champions, so obviously interesting stuff there. They're going to probably play with a little chip on their shoulder because they are 4-5 as well, so they need a must-win here. There's going to be a sense of urgency for them, or as we think, and we'll get into that later, how it will affect them and how it will affect the Saints. And then also, Saints have the 8-game winning streak. That's a big note. Obviously, got to keep that going, keep the momentum high. I think that's going to be big there. And then also, Philadelphia's 2-4 in its last 6 games, so they're definitely trending downward here. And, under 500 team, went to the Super Bowl last year. They're the hunted right now. Last year they were the hunter. Now they're the hunted. I know Breeze used to use that saying when, we won the Super Bowl in 2009. But, they've had some injury troubles. They've had, especially in their secondary, really banged up. We'll get into that a little later. They've had, some couple skill position players, be out. So, they've a little banged up after a really, long run in the playoffs. Now they're coming back this year having a little, trouble, maintaining health. And then also, they played a really tough schedule. And I just think they got in a roll last year. They played really good. They definitely don't have that same, mentality that they had last year of the whole thing with the underdog and stuff like that. I don't think they had that. And seems like their swagger is gone. Their offensive firepower is gone. I think they're only like 19th ranked in offense when last year they were top 5. Carson Wentz, he's played really good, but no one besides him has played very well. And, I think their offensive chemistry is just, gone a little bit. And I think it has something to do just, I think it's kind of that Super Bowl hangover. I think that's a real thing, and I think they're feeling it. Onto the injury report, just quick. Saints had 2 people that didn't practice, and that is Marcus Davenport and Terron Armstead. We've also had a lot of limited practices, but I think all the limiteds will play. I think it's kind of rest with our offensive line is all on the injury report with limited, but non-injury related, so obviously that's good stuff. Seems like they're just getting rest. And, Tyler Davidson, he has a hand injury that he's limited, but he was limited both days, so it seems like he'll be a go. Same with Terron Armstead. He was a injury player as well, so it seems like he's just getting rest. And, I think that's really it for the Saints. The Eagles, their secondary is banged up big time. First, Jalen Mills and Ronald Darby did not practice. Those are their 2 starting corners. So without them, that would obviously be big for us, And then also they had tight end Joshua Perkins not practice. And then also former Saint Darren Sproles not practice as well. So that's obviously, kind of a big thing there. Darren Sproles gives him some explosiveness, even, if he's, now a little older than he was on the Saints, he's still a solid player. Looking at other people that are limited, Lane Johnson, tackle, if he's limited and doesn't play, that would obviously be a big thing. And then Haloti Ngata, their defensive tackle, stops the run really good. He didn't practice on Wednesday, is limited on Thursday, so we'll see what happens Friday. We are recording this episode on Thursday night, so, when we release this for probably around Friday morning, we will not see the Friday injury report. So, we'll see, where Friday ends up for both of these teams. But it's looking like, the Eagles will be banged up. Sidney Jones for them, he's at full practice. He didn't play last week, but it seems like he'll play this week. So I think that's kind of big for them. But he's still not like at the top of their depth chart here. I mean, just looking at it, they're very banged up at that position. Sidney Jones is supposed to be their slot corner, and he's going to be put into number 1. Look for Avonte Maddox to play. I mean, these players are kind of no-namers that no one's ever heard of. Also, another corner is Rasul Douglas. No-name players that, I think only, people that cover the Eagles would know. But, I think we will have the clear advantage there, especially with Breeze, Thomas, and all those guys. But we'll get into that in the storylines. So, now on to our storylines. That was a perfect transition. And first is, will Philadelphia come out with a sense of urgency in this game as they're 4-5, and they're kind of fighting for their playoff lives here. So, first, look, I think they're definitely going to come out with that sense of urgency. You're going to look for them to go for it. They go for it a lot with Doug Peterson. He's a lot like Sean Payton, where he takes a lot of risks, and, he's going to go for it. They're going to probably try to do, long plays, just like, when Tampa Bay came out. They really had nothing to lose in that first game. They wanted to show the NFL, who Tampa Bay is, and they just came out, slinging the ball, throwing it deep, and I think that the Eagles try to do the same thing, but the difference between Week 1 and, now I feel like the Saints' back end is much better, much improved, and I think they're going to have trouble doing that. I think Lattimore will be able to shut down Alshon Jeffrey if he gets the chance to, and then, other receivers, look at Nelson Aguilar. I think Golden Tate, if they give him more of an opportunity, he can be a place where they beat us, but I think P.J. Williams is playing much better, and I think, he can contain Golden Tate, so I don't think that will be as much as an issue. And then, looking, Eli Apple, I think, is coming into a role playing better and better each week as he gets acclimated to the defense, and I think he'll be able to stop, their long plays with, Nelson Aguilar and players like that. So I think that will be big there. So, I think they'll come out with that session of urgency, but I don't think it will affect the Saints that much. I think the Saints, with the home dome, if they get off to a fast start, I just don't think anything's beating them in that dome. The Saints are amazing, coming back from winning on the road and then coming at home when they have all the momentum. The crowd just feeds off of it, and, being in the dome, Week 5, after, the Saints won a big game on the road against the Giants, coming home, playing in the dome, they had all the momentum, from that Giants game and from, the run on the road against Atlanta. They came in there and they played really good. They fed off the crowd, who really knew that momentum was there, carrying into the game. You could feel even before kickoff in, the player introductions that this team had a lot of, fire and energy, and they were going to come up for their home fans and not disappoint there. So I think, I really don't think they will come out with central urgency, but I don't think it will really affect the Saints that much. Onto our second storyline is, as we talked about earlier, Saints wide receivers versus the banged up Philadelphia defense, and especially, the Philadelphia corners. So I think that the Saints, are going to really capitalize off this. I think Michael Thomas, if he goes one-on-one with Sidney Jones, and if they play zone, which they may have to, that's just, they're going to give up a ton of yards. Breeze, if you play zone against Breeze, he will just eat you up, and you won't see the end of it. He just waits, with a good offensive line, waits for the spot, boom, it's too easy. They cannot play zone. They'll have to play one-on-one and have to win some one-on-one matchups, and that's going to bode well for Michael Thomas. It's going to bode well for Traquan Smith. It's going to bode well, for Kamara in the slot. It's going to bode well for, newly signed Brandon Marshall. If he plays, it looks like he will play. So, I think that's big stuff there, and I think that, I think Sean Payton's going to, put a game plan around that, and I think it's going to be an integral part. If we win this game, I think we're going to have to go right after their banged-up secondary there. And then also another storyline is, the improvement in the Saints secondary. I think, you got to look at it, and the Saints, they've really improved in the secondary, and I think this is another week to prove themselves against a really, solid wide receiving core, for the Eagles, looking at, Alshon Jeffrey, Golden Tate, Nelson Aguilar, those, and Zach Ertz, who's a great tight end, and, how are we going to really stop them? And I feel like, if Lattimore excels one-on-one on Jeffrey, if they put him in that situation, Eli Apple, I feel like he can run on the outside with Aguilar, and then PJ Williams just holds his own in the slot against Golden Tate. I don't think Golden Tate is going to know the whole playbook in 2 weeks, so they're only going to be able to put him in certain spots. And I think that's just going to bode well for the Saints. I think, especially with Marcus Williams playing much better, Von Bell playing, having a really good year. I think the secondary is at its best right now, and I think, we're going to see them, have an even better game against, a really tough Philadelphia wide receiving core there. Just can't give up the big plays. Can't give up. I know the first drive is going to be probably brutal. We're probably going to get beat on that first drive. So bear with me there. But after that, I feel like, we're probably going to go into our own. We're always bad against those pre-scripted drives. But after that, we usually, hit our stride. Dennis Allen's a really good defensive coordinator when it comes to making adjustments. So I feel like, we're going to excel there. So with all that said, I think it's time to get to our group-by-group preview. So we'll obviously start with the quarterback, as we always do, and I think the Saints have the edge here. I'm going to put, Drew Brees ahead of Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is having, he's coming into his own after the injury, but Drew Brees, I think it's just a class ahead. Drew Brees is in that MVP candidate, and I think Wentz is kind of a step below, maybe even 2 steps below of Brees there. But I feel like, just looking at the stats, Brees, he's throwing for about 2,600 yards, 21 touchdowns, only 1 pick, and, just Wentz, who's, 15 touchdowns, 3 picks. That's, nothing to laugh about. He's had a pretty good year as well. He's only at 21 yards, but he's only played in, 7 games while Brees has played in 9. So, he's having a really good year, but, Brees also has a much higher completion percentage. So, just all that stuff. I think, all in all, I think Brees is a better QB, and he's going to show it on Sunday, as he has, every Sunday in a row, for basically the whole year. Hopefully he can put up another MVP performance and just, another game, put another feather in the cap of Drew Brees after last week. Just another amazing game. What else would you like the man to do? Just looking at it, game after game has just played amazing, and, people are saying he's still, not ahead of Patrick Mahomes. He's had the best pass rating in the league, and it would be the best pass rating of all time. And when Aaron Rodgers did that in 2011, when he was going up against Brees in the MVP race, they gave it to Rodgers, so they better give it to Brees if, all these stats, and the Saints are playing really good, so I think that would be really big. If the Saints end up, very good, not collapsing over the last 7 games, and, they come up, and, Brees is still having these amazing stats, even if it's a little below Patrick Mahomes, I think that he'll still, get the MVP here, because, if you're looking at the 2011 race, Rodgers had the better passer rating, and he won the MVP basically based on that. Also, his team was 15-1. That was the Saints were still 13-3 that year, so not that much big of a difference. And then also, even though Brees broke Marino's record, obviously that's really big, amazing record. And if Patrick Mahomes beats the yards record, I still don't think it will matter, because I really think the the people that decide on the MVP, I think they're gonna want Brees here. I really don't think they're conning Brees. I think some Saints fans think that they're just not giving it Brees because they don't like Brees and the Saints. I don't think that's the truth. I just think that they kind of value some stats over others, and I think having the best passer rating of all time would give Brees that MVP there. So onto the skill position players. To me, it's either a push or a little edge towards the Saints. I mean, I think the Saints have a clear advantage in the run game, and I think that's going to be very, very big for the Saints. I think that's what puts the Saints over. Wide receivers, I think the Eagles have better, but I think the Saints have a little, they have a better run advantage than the Eagles do in the wide receiver advantage. So, give the little edge to the Saints, but the Eagles do have a really good wide receiving core, as we said. Running backs, Corey Clement, and Wendell Smallwood are really their main two. I mean, so, you obviously got to put Kamara and Ingram over them, especially how they've been playing, in the last game, stuff like that. Also, the Eagles have had trouble against the run in recent games, so I think that's just something to look at there. So, all in all, I think give a little edge to the Saints in the skill position. Offensive line, I think that's a clear edge to the Saints, as much as, the Eagles, they probably have around the 10th best offensive line. They've been playing really good, maybe even higher, because, looking at Jason Peters, elite talent there at left tackle. Lane Johnson, another really, really good tackle. Probably not better than our tackle combo with Armstead and Ramczyk when they're healthy, but, I think they're still good. Jason Kelsey's a very good center. And then, they're really, Brandon Brooks, average. And then, Stefan Wisniewski, again, average. So, to me, they're about above average, probably around that 10th. Very, very good. Good offensive line, but I feel like the Saints, maybe even, in the top 10, but I feel like the Saints are the best offensive line right now, even without Armstead. I feel like we are still, top 5 there. So I think, you got to give the edge to the Saints there. D-line, so, I think the Eagles do have a little of an advantage here because they're able to rush the quarterback, and, they do it really well. Just looking at Brandon Graham, Chris Long, Fletcher Cox, looking at, Michael Bennett, these guys have all had good years with, 5 or more sacks, so I think, looking at all those guys, they have a lot of guys, maybe not everyone has like the 8 sacks, that the star player, but they have like 4 or 5 guys with 5 sacks, and that's just really good. They get after the quarterback, and, our offensive line is going to get put to the test, and I feel like, to win this game, I think we're going to have to contain them, and if they start getting to Drew Brees, it's going to be trouble, so we have to make sure that we, even give help to Bushrod. I really feel like, if, Josh Hill is in a lot of plays trying to clip off, the edge rusher, I think that would be, big for us there, but I still think our offensive line will be able to, contain them very good and, not give up many sacks there. So, looking at our D-line, we're playing really good. Our D-line is playing really good, and especially, I know we won't get Davenport back for this game, but if we get Davenport back for the next game, I mean, he's just looking really strong, especially how we played last game, looking at, Cameron Jordan, Sheldon Rankins, all these guys have just played really good. Even Alex Ofor is having a pretty good year. He had half a sack. Tyler Davidson, David Onyemata, they're playing good right now, and all you got to look at also Taylor Stallworth, who's, been really good against the run. I think the Saints are better against the run than the Eagles, and the Eagles don't really have a good running defense, so I think that's going to be big there. I mean, Fletcher Cox is really their only good run stopper, but if you can, block him, I don't think we'll have much trouble. They were putting 8-man boxes, and Zeke Elliott was still running all over them last week, and I feel like we're in a similar position to they are, and I think we'll be able to run the ball really well. So I think we have the edge on the run game, but I think they have a very good rushing game, and I think that will help them a lot. So that's why I give them the edge. But even their linebackers, they can rush the quarterback. So that's big there. But, I feel like we definitely have the edge in the run defense. Not by as much as they have in the pass defense, but, the pass rushing defense, But, the way the Saints playing, it's definitely close. But you got to give a tiny edge to the Eagles, pass rushing defense compared to our run defense. So I feel like, they get the edge there. On to linebackers, I feel like our linebackers, how they're playing, it's superior to the Eagles. The Eagles do have Nigel Bradham, who's really good, but after that, they really don't have much. They have Jordan Hicks and Camus Gruger-Hill. There's not that much really there. I feel like our linebackers, the way Demario Davis is playing, he's really playing at a Pro Bowl level. And then also A.J. Klein, who's having a career year. And then also looking how Alex Anzalone has played, who's played really well as he's healthy. So I feel like that's big there. And I think, we have the edge there. The way we've been able to stop the run, best run defense in the league, that was big. And also stopping tight ends. We've been able to stop tight ends really well. And this is going to be a big test with the best tight end in the league, how he's playing right now, Zach Ertz. So if we can stop Zach Ertz, that would obviously be amazing. I think we will, actually. I think we're good at stopping tight ends, and I think we're going to do a good job in stopping Ertz, and I think that will contain him. He'll probably have an average game, but I don't think he'll have an over-the-top amazing game there. And then on to the secondary. I'm going to give us, a push, if they have a couple of players play. But if none of them play, you got to give it to the Saints just because, I'll take, Marshawn Lattimore, Eli Apple, and P.J. Williams over Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas, and Avonte Maddox. I mean, you got to there. And then also our safeties, I mean, they have Malcolm Jenkins, but I feel like we have Marcus Williams, who I don't think is as good as Malcolm Jenkins, but I think he's good. And then also you got to look at, I really feel like Von Bell is maybe even better than Corey Graham. So I feel like maybe it's a push, but maybe give a little edge to the Saints there. So, both pass defenses aren't very good, but I think that it's about a push. I mean, maybe give it to the Saints, because at least we're healthy, and I feel like Lattimore is far ahead than any other cornerback on the Eagles right now, so I think that's going to be big. If Darby and, Mills don't play, I just think it's going to be a huge positive for us, and I think we're going to just pass all over them, and I think we'll be able to stop the pass game, for the Eagles, relatively better than they'll be able to stop it for us. So I guess I'm going to give the edge to us there, and then also special teams and coaching. Their special teams is pretty good. They got Jake Elliott, Cameron Johnston, the Australian punter, and they're pretty good there. They won't have Sproles for the punt return, so Corey Clement will take over those roles. But I feel like I'll take Taysom Hill, I'll take Kamara in the punt game there, and our kicker and punter with Thomas Morstead and Will Lutz, I think, are far ahead of theirs. Maybe not far ahead, but Jake Elliott's had a little worse of a year than he did last year because he was really good last year. And, Will Lutz is just having an amazing year, so I'll put him over Jake Elliott. And then, Thomas Morstead, I'll take the veteran over, Bell. I think a rookie punter here in Cameron Johnson. So I'll take us in the coaching. I think Sean Payton, I think he's just a better coach than Doug Peterson. I think Peterson's, a very good coach, Super Bowl winning coach. He did a lot of things to win that game. I feel like they're very similar, but I feel like I'll take Sean Payton's veteran, nature as a coach. He's really good at pumping his players up, keeping the momentum, and getting them ready to play. And I think he did that, throughout this 8-game winning streak, so you got to give him there, and I think that he's a superior coach to Peterson in that manner. So now our prediction, is what everyone's been waiting for. I'm going to go 35-24 Saints. I think the Saints take care of business here, get the win. I think, probably be a close game in the late. The Saints will, pull away here, and, I just feel like our firepower is going to be too much for the Eagles' banged-up secondary, and, I think that's going to cause them trouble. I think they're going to come out, with a sense of urgency, probably play good at first, but I think, we'll probably withstand their storm and then come, storming back in the second half. I think we'll be equal with them, and I think we'll just pull away at the end, so I feel like that's kind of the direction of this game. So, with all that said, I think it's time to get to some Who Dat Nation fan questions. So, this week we have 3 questions from the Who Dat Nation. So, our first question is from Who Dat 231310, and he said, is this the best team you have seen since the 2009 team? So, I feel like this team and the 2011 team are very similar. They do a lot of things very similar, very high-powered offenses on both sides. Defenses, not as good, but, they're starting to get turnovers. Their defense got turnovers that year. So, I think looking at it, I feel like this team is getting the kind of breaks that the 2009 team got. They have the kind of magic to me. I think they have the, determination of the 2009 team, and I think that this team's maybe a little more like 2009 team. I think they really are, because I think, as much as I think their defense, is not that good, I think it's played better late, and I think it's turning into that 2007 defense with like a 2009 offense. So think of that, I think, so this may be one of the best Saints teams ever, thinking about it. I really like what, our offense is able to do. I think we're maybe even more dominant than that 2011 offense, and maybe even the 2009 offense. Right now, we're scoring at will, basically. We're scoring touchdowns, or at least scoring points, basically every possession. Last week and the week before, we didn't have to punt. Thinking about that, that's amazing, and I think, that's putting this offense, I think, superior to maybe any Saints offense in the Sean Payton, Drew Brees era. Obviously you can make, arguments about really a lot of these offenses through, the Sean Payton, Drew Brees years, but I feel like this offense is so dominant right now, and if it could keep it up through the season, I think, that's just going to be, a big thing for this team, and I think that puts it up as one of the best offenses here. To the defense, I feel like this defense is coming on a lot like that 2017 defense. Maybe, it's taking a little more time, but I really feel like it's coming, and I think we're having a lot of wins like we did in 2017, but even by more of a margin here. This game reminded me a lot of, the Bengals game reminded me a lot of the game in Buffalo. And, but I just feel like this team's better than that team. I don't know, that's what I feel. I think, they're a year older, so they have more experience, and I just feel like they're really benefiting off that there. So, is this the best team since 2009? I think it's yet to be seen, but I think it's on the right track to be. That's what I feel. So here, our second Who Dat Nation fan question is by Saints fan from NY. He asked, where has PJ Williams, got better, and what ways has he got better? Because you said he's gotten better, in the past episodes. Yeah, so, I get what he's saying. It's how PJ Williams got better. And I feel like, what he's really gotten better on is, I think he has better technique. That's one thing. That's a big thing that he's gotten better at. I feel like he's more confident. I feel like he's more prepared than he was. And, just looking at, the tape, I think he's putting himself in better positions to, make big plays. And I feel like that's obviously a big play, big thing for him, there. So, looking at it, I feel like that's what he's done better. Even, all the turnovers he's had, he's been in the right position to make a big play. And I feel like he's a playmaker. Maybe he's not the best in, covering, slot receivers. Because, look, he's going to give up some big plays. But I feel like, he can make his big plays back. And in some games, he's been almost shut down. Like last week, you didn't really hear PJ Williams that much. So that means, he did really good in covering and being able to, stop receivers. And I think he did a really good job last week. And I think, he has to build off of it this week as the Saints play a really tough slot receiver with Golden Tate. So we'll see how much he's grown in this game because Golden Tate's probably, the best slot receiver in the game, if not one of the best. So I think, we'll see what PJ Williams is made of there. And then our final question is from WhoDat91341, and he asked, will Kirkwood still get snaps after the Marshall signing? So I feel like, Keith Kirkwood's on this team. He made the team after Brandon Marshall got signed. The corresponding move was JT Gray, being cut, so he'll probably be put on the practice squad, after he goes through waivers. But I feel like, Keith Kirkwood, he was here to catch, balls, and I think he'll keep on doing that. I think between him and Brandon Marshall, that would be the Des Bryant role, and I think they can execute it really well. So I think, just looking at it, I really like Keith Kirkwood, and I think that he's going to bring a lot to this team. If he can grow, I think he's going to learn from Brandon Marshall, and he's, with that veteran presence, I think he's going to be a really solid receiver, maybe in a couple of years. So, to me, play him. Hopefully he gets, 3-4 targets a game. Brandon Marshall gets 3-4 targets a game, and then, of that, you can get, 4 or 5 catches, hopefully for 50, 60 yards and, maybe a TD. That would just be amazing from that slot. So I think that's really big there. So with all that said, I think it's time to wrap up this podcast. So if you like this podcast and haven't followed us on our various platforms, you can follow us on Twitter at the WhoDatDis, on Instagram at WhoDatDiscussion, on Podomatic at the WhoDatDiscussion, and then also you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Google Play channel, our iTunes channel, and our Spotify channel. And on those channels, we are at the WhoDatDiscussion on there. Please rate us, review us, so we know how we're doing, what we're doing good, maybe what we need to work on. And then also, comment and like, all our videos. That's just really helpful for me, as we're still growing this podcast. If you like it, smash that like button. That'd be really huge. So with all that said, I think the Saints playing really good football, obviously. Can't wait for Sunday already because, I really just want to see this team play again. It's one of these teams that I think it's one of the best teams I've seen as a Saints fan. So, you can't wait every time during the week. You just say, can't wait for Sunday. Can't wait to see the Saints play. So, can't wait to see them on Sunday to play the Eagles. I think it'll be a fun game. And hopefully, we can come out victorious there. So with all that said, I want to say thank you, prove them right, and who dat?